it's one waiting.
Okay, we're live.
Huh?
We're live. I don't know if we're testing it. Nadav, will you just let us know if we're testing and whether this is working? Mark, how does it look on your screen?
I don't have anything yet. It just says waiting.
Okay. Dog's missing a tail there, huh? Nadav, if you can hear us, will you just send me a WhatsApp and let me know if we're live here?
Live here, huh?
Okay, we're live.
I'm just going to refresh it because there's like almost a minute delay.
150 people watching. Nadav, if you can hear us, will you just send me a WhatsApp and let me know if we're live here? Folks, welcome to Mala Mala. It's been a while since we are on this live stream feed. We currently have one wild dog center of frame here, and we are going to reposition in a moment. There are more wild dogs around here. This vehicle over here, there's Nick and the rest of the standby rangers, Dan, Yaku in the back, and Liam, all found these dogs this morning and they are currently filming them, and we are going to live stream them and hopefully watch them get active a little bit later. There are a few dogs that are moving about.
Switching now, or are we going?
Yeah, switching.
Okay, well, hurry up. If you got the stuff. Yeah, on the move.
Well, we can stay, yeah.
I just pass my water bottle. Quickly, Dave. Busy playing around there. Quick. Come, let's move.
Okay, so some of these dogs are active. The other vehicle is just gone to go and catch up with them while we organize ourselves in this vehicle. And once we get going, then we'll tell you a little bit more. But if you can hear us, Mike is on the comments. Mike hasn't been with us for a while. Yaku's driving, and you got Mel in the front, co-piloting. Okay.
Yes, we're just struggling with connection.
Yeah, we're just going to see how this goes. If we do struggle too much,
Yeah, it just came through now.
okay. Folks, I'm going to give this a bash. But if we do have too much trouble with the signal, then we're going to call it a day. But for now, we are going to enjoy the sighting. These dogs were lying in the shade just to the right of screen about 2 minutes ago, and they've just moved a little bit further west and they settled down in the shade again.
Alright, so just hello to everyone that's joined us. I see there's a few names, Giraffe Girl and Renee. We really are right on the very edge of our cell phone signal at the moment. So we are in the middle of Mala Mala at the moment. I'd say sort of just south of the halfway point. But yeah, we found these dogs this morning.
I'm just going to
They fortunately were in the same place this afternoon. So we've got one team that's busy filming them for our YouTube channel, Mala Mala's YouTube channel. So hopefully next couple of days you'll see an episode on them in the morning and maybe even the rest of this afternoon. If the feed does cut out, at least you can catch up on a bit of the highlights later.
At the moment when they're lying flat like this, you can see how camouflaged they are in the dappled shade. Every now and then you just see a white tail flicking.
No. Right, but yeah, it's always a mission to keep up with these dogs when they're on the move. Luckily we've got Yaku, who was our expert driver from the last time we were following them. Hopefully.
M. Nuri saying, I'm in New York, we have rats the size of those wild dogs. Serious. Hi, Johan Duplessis, welcome back.
And then, yeah, so just today asking about the pocket router or data. So we are actually filming off of cell phones. It's the only way that we have access here. We can't get any other type of equipment at the moment with the lockdown, but hopefully soon we'll be able to get better equipment and hopefully even a better signal if we can get a signal booster. Dizzy 1369. So for a lot of folks, I wouldn't have even really had a chance to see wild dogs, certainly on the live streams and that, just because they are so active and mobile. It's difficult just to keep up with them and that. Most documentaries you see, it's a whole mash of different sightings together because they're just so hard to follow. I think the BBC's got the best one where they actually followed them with a helicopter. It was the only practical way to keep up with them on the hunt.
Peter Pina saying, thought I'll let you know that we love watching your videos. Seeing I grew up in South Africa, now living in Wisconsin. Very happy to hear that, Peter. Cal's Guiding Light, welcome back.
Alright, and a question on the weather. So it is freezing cold in the morning. And this afternoon it's actually not so bad. I want to say it's 25-ish.
Yeah.
But as soon as the sun gets lower, it's going to get cold very, very quickly.
Tapelo Howard saying, excellent work, guides. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Some folks from Tanzania, welcome.
Gareth Bushan asking, are there impala nearby? So when the guys were on their way to the sighting, they did see some impala not particularly far from here. So with luck, we might see something exciting happen. Fortunately, we're in a relatively open part of the reserve. If they go east or west, there's a large open area that hopefully they run through. If they run north or south, then we're going to struggle because the bush gets quite dense. And there's two large drainage lines either side to the north and south. What distance do they run on average per day? Asked Mareka. I'm actually not even sure, but it's, I want to say 10, 15 Ks probably wouldn't be far off. When they just trotting around and on a normal move, they can cover 5 or 6 kilometers in a couple of hours. So they certainly in a day they could easily traverse from one end of Mala Mala to the other.
So someone asking, do we know what pack this is? We're not 100% sure. We have Yaku was with him this morning. And Yaku, how many do you think there were?
Roughly about 12 or 13.
Yeah, so they're quite difficult to count, as you can see. They're lying in relatively short grass, and even so, they're quite difficult to count. But yeah, Yaku says 12 or 13, if you didn't hear that.
Today telling us it might be raining here tomorrow. Let's hope not. I'm quite enjoying the cooler weather without the rain.
Opinionated ZA, welcome back.
Dob, is the park open to the public or lockdowns affecting us? Yes, the lockdowns are affecting all of the parks and that, so it's just the ranging team or the support team that's here on the reserve at the moment. So if we're not doing live streams and the YouTube videos, then we're helping with all sorts of other field-related activities and some of the anti-poaching support roles as well. So this is almost what we do for fun when we're not working, is try and show you folks some of the animals that we're trying to look after while we're still here.
Ramesh Goswami, hello from India.
Haley loves wildlife, pointing out that all you can see now is their tails flicking up and down. So they just are sleeping. We're hoping that they get active pretty soon. There's one that's getting up now. Oh, okay, never mind. But they did get up briefly and just move about, so we're hoping they're going to get up and get going quite soon. Some of them are lifting their heads up at least.
Then Pat Schaefer joining us again. Welcome, Pat.
Jazzy Taz, hey guys.
What's there, Nick? So, Nick from the other vehicle has just pointed out a herd of impalas,
Sure.
which are about 100 meters to 150 meters maybe to their west. I'm not going to point the camera in that direction. None of these, well, I see one's just lifted its head. It's maybe noticed that herd of impalas. But folks, if these animals do start running, it might get a little bit bumpy. So just excuse the camera work when that does happen. I'm going to have to hold on with at least one hand. Yeah, we're hoping that they do decide to hunt those impalas. They very often hunt twice a day, especially a larger pack like this. They'll usually hunt early in the morning and late in the afternoon. Now the impalas have not noticed these wild dogs yet.
The wildebeest with the impala as well. Hello Mia Ferreira, all way from Robin Sewell there. Hope you're enjoying your day off. So Robin, if you are still watching or paying attention, can you message everyone and let them know to watch? And folks, if you're at home, maybe you could take a screenshot and share it and like it with your friends as well and let them join in. I think that we probably gonna see something exciting happen here at some point. Also, if you've got kids that are watching, just be aware that if they catch something, it could also be a little bit more vivid than what you're used to watching.
Yeah, this might be a PG episode.
John Gilfin asking, do we see lots of snakes? Not so much, they're around, but it's not something we see often. There's lots of other animals that eat snakes, like all the eagles and mongooses and that. So any snake that's too visible gets eaten. So they're not something we see a lot of, though they are here. Dizzy asking, do they kill for food or just because they can? And I think it's to kill for food. Like killing for fun is almost the trait of a psychopath, I'd say. Animals are many things, but demented psychopaths is not one of them. I'm hoping that dog that's standing up actually spots a impala. Nope.
John Gilfillan says hi to Hendos. Hendos is on the other vehicle. I'll point the camera at him in a second, or in a little bit when you do take the camera off. But Hendo says hi back. And then
For those of you that are not sure what digs are, it's like a kind of den that South African students live in. Filthy hole is another word for it.
Then hi to Ethan and Alex and Terry and Chris. It's all my family at home watching.
An opinionated, tell that to my cats. They never kill for food, just to give me as gifts. Well, that's a good enough reason, I feel. And Giraffe Girl saying she has shared to everyone, or to her peeps. How long have you been doing this for, Wampa asks? Gareth, for you?
Sure, in total about 5-6 years, there and thereabouts.
Now 2 years for you?
Yeah, 2-3 years.
3 or 4 for Yaku, and 17/18 for myself. So combined quite a while now. And Mia Ferreira, when you get to remember your question, you're welcome to ask it. And Trade is putting it on his Insta. But yeah, so folks, for those of you that are just joining us, we on the very central parts of Mala Mala Game Reserve. So if you look at our reserve, it's like a rectangle in shape, and we're more or less exactly in the middle of that rectangle. And the pack of dogs, we're not sure which pack this is, but there are about 12 of them, I think. They haven't all stood up yet, and we haven't really got a good count of them in this long grass. And they are not far from a herd of impala. If you're looking at them on the screen, they are to the left of the screen, and they're within about 100 meters of the dogs, but neither is aware of the other. You can't quite see it, but there's just a small band of shrubs in between the two groups. What we're hoping is that now, with the rut that the impala are going through, maybe the impala make a bit of noise and get the dog's attention, or if one of the dogs were to just kind of stand up and just move 5 or 6 yards north or south around the bush, it'll see them, and then it will be game on. And what we're going to try and do is keep up with them as best we can. And however, it's important to bear in mind we're filming in the middle of the bush with our cell phone, so the signal is not super reliable, but we're going to try our best.
Then Brian Elmar asking Mike or MK, but I think I can probably answer on behalf of MK and the rest of the team here, asking, is Mala Mala the best place you've worked at?
Without a doubt.
I think in terms of game viewing, there's very few places that come very close to Mala Mala. Dave Schul, have either of you been to the Mara migration? I have, Dave. I've been a few times. Yeah, I've guided up there a little bit. It's lovely.
Alright, so there's one. So the dogs keep moving just to get the last of the afternoon shade. If you're in the sun, it is still quite hot, so that's why they keep just shifting about a little and that. But we really are hoping that sooner or later they notice these impala. We've got ourselves in this vehicle doing the live streaming, but then we have another vehicle that's just filming for Mala Mala's YouTube channel. So we're hoping, even if the feed cuts out, if we're driving too quick and go into sort of a low area or lose signal, at least you folks will be able to kind of catch up with what happened on our YouTube channel. And I've got high hopes for these dogs right now. A nice big pack like this, they're incredibly successful hunters. They're not as fast as the cats, but they've got tremendous stamina. So they can run and exhaust impalas. Their strategy, rather than stalking and pouncing like the cats do. And with a big pack like this, because I think there's about 12 of them here, it should be relatively, they should be relatively successful in trying to isolate one impala and keep that individual in sight as they try and run it down. And then fortunately for us as well, we're in a relatively open area close to a road, so we should be able to keep up with them. Sorry, John Gillifan just distracted me completely.
Then Opinionated ZA saying, I think we are all coming to Mala Mala when this is all over. You guys have done such great work sharing it with all of us. Thank you, Opinionated. It'll be lovely to host you all.
I must say, it would be quite something to meet all of you in person. Fadi Bozid asking how strong is the bite force. So I'm actually not sure. The other day we mentioned that Jaguar has having the strongest bite force of any of the cats. And just when we got back to camp, I looked it up to confirm it, and I saw the sort of top 10 animals or strongest bite forces. And I don't remember seeing the wild dogs on that list or even featured. So certainly nothing compared to some of the other animals, the lions and leopards and that we have here. And definitely nothing compared to the crocodiles, or the crocodile was actually the top of the list. The jaguar did have the strongest bite force of any of the cats, but it was dwarfed by a crocodile. I think the crocodile was something like 5,000 psi, and the jaguar is 1,200 or something like that. But yeah, dogs weren't even on that list as measured.
And Henry Doobie asking, is Mala Mala Game Reserve in Greater Kruger? It is. We are sandwiched between the Sabi Sands Game Reserve and the Kruger National Park. And there are no fences on any of our borders.
Rizard saying we should offer a discount to the regular viewers. I wish that was my decision. Otherwise, I would have a lot of people here. However, that's has to go way over my head. Opinionated asking, has anyone ever tried to create a domesticated breed of wild dog? So not that I've know of. I've actually never heard of anyone even raising pups. I can only imagine they would be an absolute handful because they're very busy animals. We have a Belgian Malinois pup at the moment that's part of our APU team, and she's a handful on her own. I couldn't imagine what a headache a whole pack of wild dog puppies would be like. But no, I haven't heard of anyone domesticating them. I think partly it's also there's kind of no need in a way if we already have domestic dogs, so don't need to reinvent the wheel. And I think just by their nature, they just wouldn't domesticate well. Which is true actually of the vast majority of wild animals. Alright folks, so you can see one of them is getting up. If it walks just a few more yards to the north, that's doing something else. It'll see those impala, but hopefully as they're milling around in that, it'll notice them.
So someone was asking or talking about a pregnant wild dog in another reserve. I've just noticed that one of these wild dogs does look pregnant, and I did lose track of it. I don't know if it's the one that's got its head up, sort of center left of screen there. One went and lay down there. She did look pregnant. Okay, Luca Moreira saying he's back. He hasn't been able to join the live stream because of school. Well, it's good to have you back, Luca. And then Robin, if you're still watching, maybe you can just get hold of Pieter and let him know that we're live on YouTube. Cameron Marquez just asking how long it will take to become a tracker. Cameron, I'd recommend that you go to Fugaz's website and just look up. I couldn't tell you offhand, but if you do Google it, you should be able to find out. Maybe Fugaz is the right place to start. FGASA. Robin, thank you.
And the impala folks are starting to move a little bit more southward, so hopefully now that they've moved from behind the bush, the dogs will notice them. I don't think there's actually anything in between the two groups now. There is a danger though that the one dog that's standing now and just kind of looking around, he's looking the wrong direction. It needs to look kind of to its right more, but the impala might see it first and run away. It's actually walking, it's facing completely the opposite direction to where we need it to look.
Keegan Jones saying he's going to let all his friends know about the stream. Thanks, Keegan.
And then Hendrik van Zyl putting the bite force of a wild dog at 317 psi. So I'm sure it's no fun to be bitten by one, but nowhere near the force of some of these other animals that we get here. A lot of folks just mentioning how much they all love wild dogs. So I think certainly for the rangers, for us, it's one of the most exciting animals to watch, because despite them just sleeping now, they are the most active of the predators. So, now you can see, even though they're sleeping, they're kind of milling about and they're fairly restless animals. The cats would just be unconscious. You at best see an ear flick in 18 hours of their sleeping. So, and then if you're going to watch anything hunting, the wild dogs their success rate is probably closer to 50%.
So point out this one standing up in the foreground here is missing the white tip to its tail. So all of these wild dogs,
and he's just cottoned onto the impala.
Yeah.
see if he does anything about it. Other than yoga.
Akim, yes, you may ask questions.
AF frontal cortex asking, are they flicking their ears because of insects? So yes. One of the bonuses of watching this from your home or on a screen as opposed to being here is you don't have to deal with all the flies that are here. Los Angeles, yeah.
Painted Wolf, obviously a really big fan of wild dogs.
Of painted wolves.
Of painted wolves, excuse me.
An opinionated saying, and yes, their numbers are very low. It's one of the reasons that we're always quite excited when we see them, is that their numbers really are unfortunately very low, and partly that's just because there's no space for them. So these big packs, they need hundreds of square kilometers to maintain a pack, but then for a wild population you need many packs in a given area, and there's just not the space to house that many fairly voracious predators, particularly of impala. So the Kruger National Park is one of the places where we do still have a wild population in South Africa, or self-sustaining wild population. But even so, I think the numbers here, I've heard from 180 to 250, so in that range. But you could well be looking at sort of, a significant percentage of the whole population right here.
Then Sylvia Helena Lopez de Moraes, I hope I've said that right, saying she likes our channel a lot. Thank you, Sylvia. For those of you that don't know about our channel, we have a YouTube channel where we film these animals. Unfortunately, we can only live stream where there's cell phone signal, and that covers about 10% of the property. So for all of the other sightings, we do film these sightings and we put them up on our YouTube channel. So please go and have a look. Maggie and Gordon, welcome. Then someone asked, I think Rade asked, have you nearly died? Rade, we can't talk about that because Mike's mum's watching.
And a question, has the poaching rate increased? So fortunately not here, though I'm sure it's something that will unfortunately happen as the sort of economy shrinks a little bit. But yeah, we are preparing for that. John Gillifan, the fan of Liam, so we did see a pangolin. If you go onto our YouTube channel, you actually see one of our first episodes. Nick finds a pangolin. So they're very rare, but it's something that we have been able to film, fortunately, on this channel.
Folks, I'm just going to give you a little look around here. So it's just looking towards that vehicle there. They're busy filming the wild dogs. Liam's giving a wave right there in center. Dan at the back, and Nick driving.
Mohammed Irshad was asking.
Okay.
In the camera.
So here are the dogs here, and then I'm just going to point towards where the impalas are, and then I'll introduce you all to...
Impala over there.
Yeah. So center of screen. I'm going to zoom in a bit more. You can see them grazing in the sunlight there. And then just to show you who's on our vehicle here. There's Mike, who's on the comments.
Afternoon.
There's Mel. She's not trainee ranger Mel anymore. She got her epaulets, so she's now A
6.2 mil.
6.2 mil is a call sign, and there's Yaku driving there.
Good afternoon.
And then myself, Gareth, and back to the dogs.
So just a few questions on the wild dogs and their numbers. So partly their numbers are declining just because there's no space for them. Unfortunately, when they go out of reserves and come into contact with domestic dogs, they're quite vulnerable to canine distemper and rabies are the big ones. I know earlier there was a comment by someone that they'd seen whole packs, and that was in East Africa. I think they went from having 2,000 or 2,500 just down to, I think, 1 or 2 packs left at the end of a very serious canine distemper outbreak. So now on the Kruger, certainly we try to catch them and inoculate some of them against those diseases. It's a fairly topical point at the moment, but animals get diseases and their numbers can shrink as a result, just like we can. So disease is actually a big factor in animal mortality. And then the other thing is, yes, lions do kill a lot of the pups. Things like hyenas, leopards, even crocodiles kill them. So,
and then John Gilfillan saying Dan Bailey was also his mate at Stellies. So he's waving John. Looks like that.
Some of the dogs seem to have noticed the impala.
Then just to Nadav, who put up I see Nadav's on it as per usual, putting up our link to our... Guys, if we stop talking mid-sentence, it's because these dogs might be getting active, and then just watch closely. But thanks to Nadav for helping us out again, and I see he's put our link up there to our YouTube channel. Okay, we're just going to keep quiet for a little bit. They are starting to get a little bit active.
When you do hear the sound almost like birds or canaries, that's the dogs. It's actually not birds. They make a very funny twittering sound when they get going. Seems that they're going to be a little bit quieter, but to come back to a question asked earlier by frontal cortex, what is known about vocal communication used by dogs, especially on their hunt. So they do make this twittering sound when they're all kind of waking up and greeting one another, and when they're just excited in general. Not so much when they're hunting, but after a hunt and they're trying to all regather, they make this sort of hooting call to one another to kind of gather the troops up again. When they're hunting, some of these hunts can last for kilometers, and they do get quite widely scattered here in the bush. And it's not like East Africa where it's sort of vast open plains. Here the bush is relatively dense, so they can't see one another. So those big ears you can see on camera sticking out of the grass is actually how they're hearing one another. And those hoots to kind of just regather. But generally, if they're all quite widely scattered and they haven't made a kill, they go back to where the hunt started. So if we were to be following them and they chased the impala and they didn't catch anything, this would actually be a good area to come back and see if we can find them again, because they'll often come back to where they started. And then the other call they make is like a single bark, and that's more if they see a predator, something they see as a threat. They're not kind of like a dog barking and yapping its head off, but just single, more like an alert or warning bark.
And then Rade asking, why do all of us have such short hair? So Peter gave us all a haircut the other night. Yeah, we are still under lockdown here, and I don't believe any hairdressers have opened. We haven't left the reserve much. I don't know why we entrusted Peter to do this, but
Yeah. Also, the clippers only have one setting.
Yeah.
But I think the last time I was off the reserve was in February. So it's been a while. So we've seen 12, but there might actually be one or two more. It's just hard, as you can see, it's pretty hard to see them when they're all lying in this longer grass. And again, just for everyone joining, we're on Mala Mala Game Reserve and right bang in the center of the reserve at the moment. We're at the very, very edge of our cell phone signal. So mine keeps lagging and dropping out from time to time, which is why we can't always answer some of the questions. It seems the live feed is going through okay, the video feed. But if the dogs start moving, we're hoping that they'll move east or west and we can stay in signal. To our north and south, there's either side of us, there's two large drainage lines. If we go into those dips, we're going to lose signal. But we should be good for here. And there is a herd of impala in the general area. They're just moving slowly away now, and the dogs just don't seem to have noticed them. We're hoping one of them either sees them, or if the impala perhaps make a bit of a noise, it's their ratting season, their breeding season. So that might get the dog's attention.
And then Tapelo Howard saying he's learning so much here. Thank you. Thanks, Tapelo. I hope, yeah. Just go down again, say. No, I've missed it.
A frontal cortex asking, is there an easy way to identify males from females? So there is the obvious way, but aside from that, not really. They all have a relatively slender build. The males, a little bit thicker body and neck, but I wouldn't, like these ones that are all lying down now, there's no way you would see which one is a male and female. Interestingly, with a big pack like this, like I say, we think there's 12 or maybe even more here, only the alpha male and female breed. One of the females that stood up a little bit earlier in the feed looked like she was very pregnant. And what they'll do is they'll find an old turn or something, den inside the burrow. They might current resident, maybe a dog or a pond, and use that to den in. And that should hopefully be any day now. They den in the winter, and partly that's because all the impala are concentrating around the last water. Impala must drink every day, and impala are a big part of their diet. So if they can get their food at its most concentrated while they are kind of nailed down to that den, they can't roam these huge territories that they occupy. They're confined to a relatively small space. So they need their food to be concentrated in that smaller space, but ideally also with fewer predators in it, like lions and leopards. So they want somewhere where there's lots of food for them, but far enough away from that food source that they're not too...
Seems like the impalas have finally noticed them. It's taken them some time.
Yeah, they're the impala all starting to alarm call now.
Welcome, Sheila Grobler.
So a few questions on whether animals are telepathic or not. So for a long time people thought that elephants were perhaps telepathic, and further research and that found that they actually communicate with these very low frequency rumbles that we can't hear. So it was discovered that the elephants were just making a sound that we're not aware of, unless you have specialized sound equipment. And that's opened up a whole new avenue of research into animal communication, and they now know that things like the big cats and rhinos are also capable of making and receiving these sounds.
So that's pregnant here, eh?
Yeah. So that one that's walking across, you can see her teeth fairly clearly. She's not heavily pregnant, but she is certainly looking.
So she's
pregnant.
Currently right of screen now, standing up.
But yeah, so just to finish what I was saying, they might not be telepathic, they might just be hearing a different range of sounds to what we are hearing. And that's true of a lot of animals, but even people. Kids are able to hear higher pitches than adults. And as you age, you lose your ability to hear some of those higher frequencies. So it's not necessarily supernatural, it's just not understood yet. Baba Muhammad Ishad. I don't know if you folks can hear the impala all alarm calling at these dogs in the distance. And it's like a snorting, sneezing sound. Opinionated asking, do they share areas with other packs? So they have a core territory, it seems, and then there is a lot of overlap. When they're denning, they'll keep other packs out of the vicinity of their dens, but over the course of time here at Mala Mala, we see 4, sometimes 5 packs in a year, and we might go months from seeing one particular pack to the next. I've seen them, unfortunately, one pack killing a member from another pack, and it was fairly brutal, but quite unusual to see that sort of aggressive behavior from the dogs. Normally they're fairly docile, playful animals, so it's unusual that they get into fights. Opinionated asking how many pups will she give birth to and do most survive to maturity. So unfortunately most will not survive to maturity. They have a very low success rate in raising pups, and the number of pups they can give birth to is actually unusually high. So things like lions and leopards, 2 or 3 youngsters is kind of it, where with the dogs, because they're cooperative breeders, so only the alpha male and female breed, but then the whole pack hunts to support those pups. So I think the record, if I remember correctly, was 22 at Pretoria Zoo, and that's a zoo animal, so probably much better fed and that then looked after than a wild animal would be, but sort of 10, 15 isn't unusual, which is a huge amount of pups. But again, the strategy is like rather have 15 pups and hope 2 survive, then invest everything into those 1 or 2 and not all of them survive. So folks there, they look like they're getting going, perhaps.
Might get bumpy now, folks.
So we're going to stick with them as long as we can. Hopefully the signal doesn't cut out, but rest assured if it does, we are going to continue to film them. One of the reasons we have a live streaming vehicle here is so that we can follow them for that, but then we have a second vehicle that's here, that's purely here just to film them, and that, so if the stream cuts out, keep an eye on our YouTube channel and hopefully you'll see a successful hunt, or a hunt at least, in the next couple of days once we're done with editing it. And also if you want to see that, you can like and subscribe to Mala Mala's YouTube channel and you'll get a little notification. Sightings channel, you'll get a notification where there are cell phone signal, and we've got no way of predicting that, which is why that little bell notification is pretty important, because we can't schedule it. You'll just get some notification at some point. But yeah, the dogs are certainly looking like they're going to get going very soon. Dizzy says, oh, full scream time. So one of the reasons we're going to have to go to the full scream is I think if they do start running, it is going to get very busy. I could say we've got Yaku as our expert driver to hopefully navigate and keep us up with the dogs. We'll see. Angela Smith, it is very unusual to see painted dogs in the Kruger. They are very, very rare animals. Then Shredai says, time to see your shoes when we get going, like last time. But yeah, Shredai, there's a lot fewer trees here than the last time we were trying to follow these, so we don't have to duck down as much, hopefully. And thank you to Frontal Cortex for liking and subscribing to our channels. He's also asking, or she, perhaps one of the dogs only has half a tail. I wonder if it affects it standing in the pack. It's actually hard to say. I don't think so. One of the functions of that tail is just as a look at me symbol, so follow me symbol. So when they are running and that, probably the only thing you'll see on the screen when they're running is those white tails. So it just helps the pack to stay together, and it would be a bit of a symbol, but it also could have lost it in a fight, and only, if it was the winner of those fights, it could even possibly be the alpha male if you won that fight. But it's very difficult actually to tell which is the alpha male in these packs, because they are fairly democratic animals. And Michael Carter, you are correct. So they are one of the most successful hunters, or probably the most successful hunter. I have read a lot that something like 90% of their hunts are successful, but here it's probably closer to 50%. And I think that's also just their style of hunting, is to run down and exhaust animals. So that works really well in East Africa on those big plains where they can see an animal and run down an individual to exhaustion, where here in this low veld bushveld that we have, the animals can actually go and hide away from the dogs. So if they lose sight of the dogs, or the dog loses sight of the impala, it might actually get away from them if it ducks down into a bush and sits still. Tupelo asking, at what speed do they run? So when they've been chasing a bushback on a road, I was going 60 kilometers an hour in a Land Rover, and the dogs were pulling away from me. So Land Rovers are not well known for their speed and also the accuracy of their speedometers, but it was pretty quick. So even if it was 50 kilometers an hour, they might have been going 60. So they are very quick when they're in a flat out run.
Okay, so folks, those are the guys that are diligently filming the wild dogs here. You can see the dogs are not concerned about the vehicles whatsoever. Walking right up to the vehicles.
And Haley loves wildlife. Yes, there is one here with the limp. So unfortunately, we don't see the dogs often enough to get to know them as well as we know our lions and leopards. But
So we're going to try and follow or keep with the bulk of the pack here, so we're going to get going. So excuse us if we're a little bit bumpy for now. I'm just going to zoom out a bit so it's easier for you to see. And we're in quite a Charleston, and we are just south of the northern border of Charleston Farm. And right here it's nice and open, so we hope these dogs just continue in the open areas. Okay, here they are.
So listen out for the noises they make.
So the second filming vehicle is going to drive with us today, just because it's easier to follow these animals with two vehicles.
Right, and the good news is they're following hopefully the direction that we'll still have signal. But again, just forgive us if the stream cuts out. It might just need a second or two to buffer. Alright folks, and then also just, unfortunately it's a little bit tricky to read the comments and questions as we're bouncing around through the bush. We're going to really try our best to keep up with these dogs.
It's fine, you can go.
Good. And then Haley Loves Wildlife suggesting we get the seatbelts on. That's probably not a bad idea if we had them.
Definitely quite far from a seatbelt right now.
And then a question her day asking if they are hunting. So if these animals are moving, then they are hunting. Just by their nature, they're always on the lookout for food, and one of their tactics is to kind of run along and see what they can flash out as they go. I think they gave up on those impala, even though they were relatively close. The impala were able to see them. But this is a very good area for impala in general, so hopefully they come across another herd of impala. But running through the me perhaps if they the impala and come back. And hey, wild dogs are like hooligans on the move. So they don't, but they don't see. Can still like this coming through. I'm getting the comments, but not the rest of the feed.
These smaller trees are combretums or bush willows, and then these taller ones are a slightly more open area now.
Alright folks, so we're back on the crest of the next hill. Hopefully you've got the signal coming through now again. We're gonna stick with the dogs as much as we can. If we do drop out, like I say, try to keep tabs on our YouTube channel and see if you get the rest of the hunt there. Robin says it's better now. the hills in Mala Mala, we're gonna hopefully have signal for now, and we'll just see if it does. Like I say, if it cuts out again, our plan is to try and stay with them until it gets dark here. But the dogs cover tremendous distances, so we could start this or end this feed in the next 100 meters or next 2 kilometers.
Yeah, so if it does cut out in the next 100 meters, we just want to say thank you so long for all of your comments and for being with us this afternoon. And for all of those regulars that comment on our YouTube page, we appreciate your support.
Frontal cortex saying this is so much better than your typical nature documentary. So folks, I think it is quite cool that you can see this live. This is certainly, these are some of the most endangered animals in the world, the second most endangered carnivore in Africa, and you are able to watch them live as they start their hunts in a late afternoon from all over the world. You've got people from Chicago to Brazil, and what you're seeing is like the raw, uncut footage, and you can appreciate with those nature documentaries that we watch, or that you see, a 45-minute documentary might take years to film, and the BBC are particularly good at producing wildlife documentaries. They'll spend 2 years to get a 30-second shot.
And this is what happens behind the scenes.
And
to
this
get those
is
shots.
Yeah, this is what went into it. So even our little 15 minutes on our Mala Mala's YouTube channel, so we might film this, it'll take 2 or 3 hours of following the animal, and then 8 or 9 hours just of editing the footage together into a little 12 minutes video. So yeah.
So as we're driving through this thick bush again, you can see that a lot of these bush willows have yellow leaves on them. It is autumn here, and in the next few weeks all of these leaves are going to turn yellow, and it's going to be very beautiful. And yeah, you mentioned already that it's quite chilly here in the morning.
Wow, cool, asking, are we using a gimbal for the camera?
It's just my steady hand.
So we're using Gareth's rock steady forearm and a Huawei cell phone mounted on a Joby Gorilla Pod. So not the most high tech, but I think. And wow, cool, also asking, do we use drone shots? Yes, we do for possible, and it depends very much on the individual animals. Some of them don't mind the drones at all, and some do. So we always give the animals the benefit, and the same applies to
Yeah, just animal energy.
a few people asking us about social distancing and masks. So folks, we've all been on this reserve since February.
Yeah, looks like that one's running there. Right. So Yaku's just turned, as you
good.
Yeah, visual.
We had visual of 2 individuals. They're continuing north in this plot of land from previous position that we were at.
Are we live there still? Okay, so folks, just to update you there, we saw the dogs run in and then towards him or a road. At this point it's going to
Alright folks, so yeah, we're moving more and more out of signal range. I suspect by the time we get to the other road we might well have lost this completely. But yeah, we'll try to stick with him as much as possible.
Oh, yeah, here we are. There's a road. Can you believe it? You can see Mike's been doing this for 17 years. Weren't you born on this road, Mike?
Next one.
Next road.
So if there's any Mala Mala rangers that are watching, try guess where we are. Which road is this? It's on Charleston.
Yeah. So I don't know if you heard Mike there, but if you any Mala Mala, try guess. It's beautiful there.
So what we're trying to do now is the dogs were last seen right this road. Area, ridge of the hill. So this is why you've got signal at the moment, but the second we move over the ridge we're going to lose it again. So hopefully they stay here. And also hopefully if they keep going the way they are, they'll run into the central parts of Mala Mala, and then hopefully we'll be able to find them in the morning and perhaps live stream again. The dog.
So the one that ran bolted north.
We're not that far from the Charleston and the boundary. Maybe we'll catch it there.
Folks, so that's the northern end of the Drakensberg Range, a very famous mountain range in South Africa. That mountain range.
Brendan, I know that every Mala Mala ranger has driven this road with at least every set of guests that we have. So you should recognize it in a second.
Okay, so let's just go back to the road so they can see. Okay, so here's a big junction for all the Mala Mala rangers.
Alright folks, so it seems we've just seen some tracks on the road. I think we're going to catch up with them now. There's again that big open area ahead of us.
We're just by the open area, the very northern part of Charleston Drive, Zebra Skull, south. Okay, we're going to vision of 5.
We head back there. Just go like 100 meters around, just so you can look around the corner. And
They are in the open, it'll be pretty cool.
Okay, it's fine. Let's go back.
Okay. Folks, so the other vehicle have spotted 5 of these dogs. You can see the sun is about to set. We're going to go back. Once the sun sets here, the light diminishes very quickly. And we do not view these animals at night. light diminishes very quickly here.
Alright, and Brendan Cole, you got it right, but I feel like you're cheating there.
So what was it, Brendan?
You said the position that Yaku just announced on the radio.
Okay. Yeah. Forget that I can't hear these people talking back to me over the camera.
Oh. I'm presuming you were trying to hunt something. I don't know what it was. So if they were successful, we'll probably have them all calling to one another to get just kind of regather their pack.
Okay, so looks like there's a drainage line there. Yeah, so it looks like these dogs are running parallel to us, but in a drainage line. So we're just going to keep on driving north parallel to this drainage line and hope that some of them pop out. If you have a look at some of these trees here, these silvery looking silver.
Alright, and Meter, welcome back. Just asking, do they split up when they're hunting? So it's not that they're kind of doing it as a plan, but yes, they do get separated. You can see how thick this bush is. So just like the two vehicles getting separated. Oh, there we go. Just spotted them ahead.
Okay. Let's watch your heads. That looks like they're going to this open area, which will be nice. Oops, got it. Yeah, you can see some of them there.
There you go.
They're in the open area we've just come from.
Oh, it's a beautiful light as well.
This is much better.
Yes.
Yeah, so this is going to be a lot easier for Yaku to navigate. Well done, Yaku. That was difficult driving, I must say.
Yaku did very well to stay through there. I feel like you might get bored now that there's not enough trees to dodge in this open area.
Yes, so that dog's sniffing close to where Yaku saw the tracks. Okay.
Alright, so there, Mareka, we have found Wally. But yeah, sorry, Mita, to go back to your question, they do split up or get split up while they're hunting, and then they start to hoot and call to regather once they've either been successful or not. So what we're hoping here is that they will maybe gather up again on this big road junction.
There's some dogs in the background there, further to our west that are headed north. There you can see them in the background, just jogging north.
And Ethan asking how many packs live in the park. So on Mala Mala we see about 4 packs, sometimes 5 over the course of the year. In the whole Kruger National Park, I couldn't tell you, but maybe 15 or 20, hopefully a lot more than that. And some packs are much bigger than others as well. And then Weedy and Washington just helping us out. So folks, we aren't always able to go live, and that even if we were to find the dogs tomorrow, I hope they may not be somewhere where there's signal. So the best way to get a notification that we're live is to go into this channel, click, and then the little button, those notifications. Normally we'll go live anytime in the morning here in South Africa, or otherwise from about 4 to 6 in the evenings, or 4 until it gets dark. You can see the sun is just on the horizon. It's about to set behind the Drakensberg, and that little section you can see is the Blyde River Canyon, just to the right of the sun there. So Pilgrim's Rest is up that canyon. 3-Rondavels, that's a part of the world you're looking for.
And it's worthwhile Googling that and just having a look at those images. It's a really, really beautiful part of the world. So for those of you that missed it, it's Blyde, B-L-Y-D-E, River Canyon. I think it's the 3rd largest canyon in the world. I might be mistaken. Maybe someone can Google that for us as well.
The 3rd largest and the largest vegetated canyon in the world, after the Grand Canyon and the Fish River Canyon, which are both in deserts. BB, what are the chances of the dogs finding something to eat? So that's the reason we're sticking around. We think the chances are very good. It's just a question of them finding an impala or a duiker perhaps. Though they do seem to be more interested in sniffing around than actually hunting at the moment. We're on one of the major road junctions, so they're probably smelling all the other animals. There are leopard tracks here as well. Things like hyenas and lions also will come through here. So not that they care about the territories of those other animals, but they'll certainly be interested in knowing what other predators are about. We are already, fingers crossed, hoping rabbit's paw sacrifices to the gods. Sorry, Mal, I've got bad news for you, by the way. That they den here on Mala Mala, because they'll try and den in a low predator density area, but where there's a high density of things like impala and that. And this is the time of year that they're going to start to den. So if we're lucky, they might den here, but before they do, they need to investigate that area thoroughly.
I think if they start going, we'll try and keep up a bit longer, but the light is fading. If they start going into some thick land now, I don't know if we're going to follow them too much longer. If they stay in more of these open areas, then we'll stick with them. But you've seen how difficult it is to drive through these areas, as it gets darker for us, and it actually appears lighter on the screen of the cell phone. It's a lot darker in reality. It's just going to be more and more difficult for us to see stumps and the like in these thicker areas. So we're just going to stick with them as long as the light holds for us.
You can see this one investigating around this fallen stump. That's a pretty good place to look for other animals that might have scent marked, and even maybe flush out a little scrub hare, a little rabbit. But yeah, I think this is the one whose tracks we saw earlier is coming back to rejoin the pack. Obviously they weren't successful with their hunt.
Amazing how that white tail stands out. Okay, let's back to this one.
But yeah, so this fallen tree stump would be the perfect place for any animal to scent mark. It's kind of obvious feature. So just like we put signposts in very visible, obvious places, so do the animals. And the dogs have an amazing sense of smell. So not only would they know what type of animal was here, they'd also know how healthy it was, how long ago it was, male, female. All that information they'd be picking up. It looks like the whole pack is coming over to investigate the same stump. Oliver Matthew, hello Ollie. And they've been spending quite a bit of time showing interest in denning, so
Hold on.
not so much, but they could have been spending more time here and we're just not seeing them. So we really fingers crossed that they're denning here this year.
No, we're not going to go. Folks, if these dogs go into this thick bush line here, we're not going to follow them. There are some that are on the road still, so we'll stick with those ones. And there's one running to our left here, or to our west, which is absolutely beautiful with that sky behind it.
So folks, now is the time to do your screenshots and like and share that on your respective Facebook and Instagram pages. And hopefully you can share these amazing sightings with your friends. But yeah, it's these kind of spectacular scenes like this that most people would never get the opportunity to see. There's one of the dogs going off at a little bit more pace. Never mind. Oh, there's Impala running straight north there.
Yeah.
So good news, folks, is that we're right on the crest of the hill, so this is about as good as our signal's going to get. Bad news is they are running towards another of our large drainage lines, but hopefully they don't get there before it gets too dark. Alright, and welcome BRS 5613. BB asking, have we seen any other animals? So not really, we've been kind of focusing on the dogs today. I think everyone was kind of focused on the dogs, partly because they're just so hard to follow, which is why we had our other vehicle doing the Mala Mala's YouTube channel's videos here. Also, we don't see the dogs often enough to really put too many episodes with them up and get great footage, but it's also easier to have two vehicles following. So we haven't even really looked around for other animals today, like the lions or the leopards. You never know, maybe we find some on our way home this evening.
There's another dog in the background there, in the bush line.
Oh, that impala ran in there too. And then opinionated, we did see those impala. I don't know if it saw the dogs first and it just ran off. It was way in the distance, but they have this very distinctive run or gait where they kick their heels up really high when they're running away from the dogs, and it's almost showing off to the dogs, look at me, I'm so healthy, there's no way you could possibly catch me. And the idea is that the dogs then don't bother. But if there's 10 impala running like that, bouncing around, heels in the air, this sort of exaggerated rocking horse run, and then one that's limping along, then you know which impala they're going to go for. And then Annette Lane just pointing out the beautiful colors. So it is pretty spectacular this evening. Like I was saying earlier, we're right on one of the ridges on the center of Mala Mala, which is why we've got this amazing view.
Yeah, if there aren't, this may well be close to the end of our transmission or our live stream for today. Yeah, it looks like they've ducked down into that drainage line, and I think we're going to lose signal soon. So, yeah, so we're just going to stand by this. There's a pan up ahead here. I don't know if it's got water in at the moment. It's got some mud.
Yeah.
So we're just going to stand by here for a little bit and see if any dogs pop out. If not, we will be saying our goodbyes. There's an impala right here. There's an impala just to our left there. It would be nice if the dogs came here now.
Alright, so I think we're going to wait to give it a couple minutes and see if the dogs come out. They were kind of running this way when we last saw them.
Oh, there's one straight ahead of us there.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, so he's just popped out there.
Yeah,
Has it run?
He's just seen that impala.
Impala's running.
Yeah, it's starting behind us here. This is the gate that Mike was talking about. Okay.
Like, so you can see the dogs are running in full.
But you could see quite clearly that gate that Mike was talking about, the stotting, how it kicks its hind legs up into the... Looking for some water here, but there's not much. You can pass sideways.
And person, we really are live. But yeah, folks, so we just saw the dogs run in and kind of miss on that impala. I think it just saw them. The impala was really lucky it had a big...
Oh, something's directly behind us. Straight behind us. Okay, there's a dog there. I saw the trees crashing there. Yeah, where these dogs are, but I don't know what's happened. I don't know if it's two dogs having a squabble. It's a hyena.
Alright folks, so it seems the dogs just had a little altercation with a hyena.
Here's a hyena, there we go.
There's a hyena. But yeah, the dogs are not huge fans of the hyena.
So this is what makes dogs exciting to follow. If they're not hunting impalas or other antelope, they very often come across other predators or any other animals which they generally harass.
I thought that caught an impala.
Yeah, me too. I just saw that bush shaking. Some digging there. Looks like it's got something.
We are asking, did we ever see one of these animals kick a wild dog? No, I'm not saying that it doesn't happen. It just, you saw how fast these animals ran off, so we can barely keep up with them, never mind see the intricacies of an actual kill. So
Thanks. Wait. I can take that back.
Just have a look at that sunset though folks, as those dogs are moving around this open area.
Okay, thanks Mike.
Alright folks, and I'm not even sure if we're still streaming, my feed is cut out.
Folks, yeah, if we are still live, we are just going to say goodbye for now. It does look quite bright on the screen, but it is quite dark here. So I'm going to
goodbye.
Thank you. And there's Yaku in the front. Thanks for driving us, Yaku. As Mike.
Goodbye again folks, thanks for joining us.
From myself, Gareth, thank you for joining us.